Hello and good day to you. You're once again welcome to MES of Constructions, where we'll discuss all things engineering, architecture, and 3D modeling. Today, we'll be learning in Blender how to wrap a text around your object. Before further ado, we encourage you to subscribe to our channel for more contents like this, and don't forget to turn on your notification bell to be the first to see our latest tutorial videos on Blender for architecture and Blender for 3D modeling. Now let's get right into the video. We're going to be considering three methods in this tutorial, and the first method will be a straightforward method, the least recommended method. So we can start this method by adding a cube to the scene. We use Shift A, then go to Mesh and add a cube to the scene. Now what we want for this cube is that we want the cube to have as many faces as possible so that it will make our work to be easy. And also, with many faces come vertices, and in this method we'll be snapping to the vertex of our cube. Be snapping our text to the vertex of our cube. So let's get right into it by going into the edit mode, and we are going to subdivide this. We give it a subdivision of 10 first, then we can go on to select all again and subdivide again just once. This depends on the nature of your project, how big your project is. But here I'm just subdividing once, making 11 subdivisions. And now I go back to my object mode, and then I go and add a text to the scene. So I want this text to be rotated on the x-axis by 90. Then I'll also rotate it on the z-axis by 90. Then I'll bring the text out towards the x-axis by 2000. I'm using the metric system and using the millimeters, as you can see right here. So I want to scale this down. Let me scale it down by 0.45. Then I'll move it to on the y-axis. On the negative y-axis, let's move it by 800. And then I want whatever I'll be writing there to be kind of centered to the cube. So I'll go into edit mode for the text, and then I'll remove this and type something more meaningful, like let's say 1 cube as my text. Then I go back to object mode to see if this is indeed properly centered, and I can go on higher to move it. Let's move it on the x-axis again by, let's say, 500, closer to the cube, and you have something like this. What we want to do is we want to have this text, on the surface of this cube. And in order to do that, we can easily just click on the cube, go to edit mode, and click on any part on the cube that I want to make as a reference for the text. And then we press Shift S, and then go to cursor to selected, then go back to object mode, and then click on the text and press Shift S again and select selection to cursor, and then you have it there. So you have your cube, you have the text, we have the text right on the surface of our cube. And when you click on the text, you see that it's right on the surface of our cube. So in order to have this even more solid and more convincing, we can go and convert this into a mesh. And once we convert into a mesh, then we can easily extrude it. So we can carry out our extrusion in our edit mode, and by selecting all, then we can extrude. Let's say we extrude on the x-axis by 60, and then you have this, not so bad looking text on the surface of your cube, and I think it looks good. But this is why this is a good method to do it, a simple and easy method to do it. It's not the most recommended method to go about it, because this method doesn't really work for curved surfaces. For curved surfaces, you need to add some, kind of modifier, to make the cube, to make the text to curl around your curved object. So now we'll be considering the second method, which is even a little bit more reliable than this, and that will involve using our knife project tool. So now, in order to use our knife project, what we need to do is we need to select the text and also select the cube. And once we do this, we go into edit mode, and then we select the entirety of the cube. You need to go to edit mode, then we select all. Then we can go into mesh, then we take knife project, we select knife project, and then click on knife project. And once you click on knife project, you see that you have your text already embedded in your mesh. And because this is not perfectly positioned on the surface of this cube, you have just cube, projected on the surface of the cube instead of one cube. So now what we want to do is that we want to perfectly position this, so we can use our Ctrl Z to undo, and then we can scale this down a little bit. So we need to scale this down. Let's scale it down by 0.5. Yeah. So then we'll move it to the center. Again, we can move it by 300. Then now, even though it's not perfectly centered yet, we can still move it, by adjusting the Y values by 500. Yeah, this is okay. Now I want to move it even closer to the cube. So it's closer to the cube. Now we can select both the text and then select the cube in object mode. Then we tab into edit mode. Then now we select the cube and then go to mesh and then select knife project. And once you do that, you can see that our one cube is properly projected on our cube. And then we can get rid of the text by either hiding it, or straight up deleting it. And in this case, I'm hiding it. Even though you can see that this method is much faster than the previous method, and it looks a little bit better only for some minor adjustment that you may have to make, to your text. As you can see, you have all this right here, and these are, part of the text that are essential that you need to get right. So you may need to manually edit this, but notwithstanding, you can always, extrude this. You can extrude it out, and it will still look very, cool. So you can extrude this by, let's say, 60, and you have your mesh right there. And when you go to your object mode, you're going to be seeing something like this, and which is very cool. It's still, on the surface of, you have your text on the surface of your mesh. And this method also works for, circular or spherical geometry. And that's the beauty, because the first method won't work very well for a circular plane, that's for a UV sphere. But this method will also work for a UV sphere. And we're going to be trying the method with a UV sphere, and you see yourself that it works properly for a UV sphere. So I'm going to be deleting this cube, and I'll be changing the cube to a sphere. But before that, I want to Ctrl Z so that I can freely delete the cube. So now I'll be deleting the cube, and I'll add a UV sphere. So I want this text to be projected on the surface of this sphere, following the geometry of the sphere. So now we'll repeat the same thing. Since we've already scaled down, okay, we can scale it down a little bit more, because we've we undid whatever we did, so we still need to scale the text down. Even though if you don't scale it down, I don't think it will make any difference. But let's scale it down by, let's say, 0.7. Yeah, which is good. So now what we want to do is we want to project text on the surface of this UV sphere, which means the text will have to, be curved. So we can move it. Let's move it by, let's say, 400, and then we can select both again, and then go to edit mode, mesh, knife project, and you see that now you have something that looks even a lot better. We can hide the text. Why this is a better method than the first method? It's not the best method that I'll be recommending for you to use to achieve this. So, because you still have to be editing a lot of things, to make it look good. So we can extrude by, on the x-axis, by, let's say, 50 or 60 rather. And you can see that your one cube comes out, but it's not really very perfect. But this method also genuinely works for sphere, for UV sphere, for circular surfaces. Whereas the first method doesn't, directly work for circular surfaces. You have to add some modifiers, to call the text around the circular surface. So now let's go to the last method, which is the most efficient method. And this method involves using your shrink wrap modifier. Let's just delete the UV sphere. And we'll also be deleting okay, I'll leave the text for now. So because I'll still be using the text. So I'll add a new UV sphere. Let's add a new UV sphere to the scene. And then I want this UV sphere to be properly centered. So I'll just press Shift C to center the cursor. Then move the selected to the cursor by using Shift S, selection to cursor. So now I have it properly centered. So I want this also to move. Let's move it by 600. Right. It's not centered yet. So I want it to be properly centered. So let's move it again. So I think this time we can move it by 350. Yeah, I think it's good. And I can also move it down. GZ. Let's move by 250. This may not be necessary, this is just a personal preference. So now what we need to do now is to add a shrink wrap, a deform modifier to the text. So you select your text first, and after selecting your text, you go to your modifier stack to add a modifier, then you go all the way down to deform, then you select shrink wrap, and then in your shrink wrap you have to make sure that your wrap modifier is set to target normal project, targeting the normals, not default, which is the nearest surface points. Because with the nearest surface point on a curved mesh, you have trouble because your text will be warped around the surface, directly, and some part of your text may be going into the geometry of the UV sphere. Why you can choose this for a rectangular surface or a plane surface, it's not going to be very effective to make, to choose the nearest surface point for a UV sphere or a circular surface. So we are going to be choosing target normal project, and then here we're going to be selecting the sphere, as what we are warping text around, and that's just it. Once you do that, you can see that it's perfectly warped around the UV sphere. Let's try to scale this up. Let's scale it up. Let's scale it up by 3. Yes. And even while we scale it up, you see that it's still warped around. So I can actually just remove the shrink warp and then reintroduce it, so that what I scaled will properly fit into the UV sphere. Target normal project, and then the target object is going to be the sphere. And as you can see, it's properly wrapped around my UV sphere. And then now I can easily extrude. And because they are different objects, I can't extrude right away. I need to convert this into a mesh. I need to convert the text into a mesh. And after converting into a mesh, I can go to edit mode, select all, and then extrude towards the x axis. So I can extrude by 60. Yes. So, and when you go to your object mode, you have this nice looking text wrapped around the UV sphere, the surface of the UV sphere. While there are still some edits that you may have to make on the text, they are not really noticeable, and it's not really necessary for you to do that. So I think this is the most recommended method. Using your shrink wrap is the most recommended method to wrap your text around the surface of an object. And this brings us to the end of our tutorial for today. We hope you're able to learn a thing or two. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more content like this, and turn on your notification bell to be the first to see our latest tutorial videos on Blender for 3D modeling and Blender for architecture. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.